The November 13th, 2026 Whitfield Planning Commission meeting is now called to order. First, we'll establish a quorum, which we have. Next item, approval of agenda, and I'll need a motion.
So move.
Second.
And we got to have a roll call vote, so we'll go around the room. George.
River, aye.
Patterson, aye.
Anderson, aye.
Schmidt, aye.
Jones, aye.
Litton, aye.
Okay. Next is the consent agenda, which are the minutes of the regular meeting of October 9th. And I need a motion and second, please.
Move they be approved as presented.
Second.
Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on. Next item, public hearing. On the agenda, public hearing to discuss amending the special exception permit approved by the Whitfield Town Council on June the 9th, 2025, for Ms. Donna Leonard to operate an accounting and tax office on property located at 525 North 4th Street, tax parcel number 41A-1-227 in an R2 residential zoning district. And we'll have a staff presentation by Ms. Elaine Holton.
Okay, great, thank you. Welcome to the Planning Commission. Thank you for your attendance this evening. We also have Ms. Leonard here in the audience if you have any questions for her. In your packet, you did receive a staff report about the request to amend the conditions attached to the special exception permit. As you recall, we heard this in June and made a recommendation to the Town Council who approved the special exception permit with the 5 conditions. I actually had to go back and watch the video. The video came in handy to see the discussion that happened, so that's definitely a worthwhile thing to do if you haven't done so. In essence, what happened, or my opinion, what happened was when I went to the site to meet with Miss Leonard about the signs, she indicated to me that she did not feel comfortable with the handicap parking in the front of the structure. It would have required considerable investment, quite a long ramp. As you recall, we just required the stone surface in the front, not the paving, so it would have required some additional costs there. So what I did was I told her that I would check with the building official, and if there was no building code that required it, that we would consider an amendment. So this is why we're hearing it tonight, is because we did consult with the building official, and the building official visited the site. He conducted a review, and you will see in your packet that his review indicated that because it is an existing building with an original occupancy of R5, and the use has changed into business, that he would follow the 2021 Virginia existing building code, which says that the alterations weren't at the level that would have required the handicap parking. And so being that the building official would not require the handicap parking, really it's just a subjective, I guess, requirement that this body and the town council can consider. It's nothing that would be required by local law. What that means, I guess, for federal and state law is that Ms. Leonard may want to consult with her own attorney about whether she needs to do so to meet any federal or state requirements. But our zoning ordinance in Article 16 and our parking standards, we do not cover ADA requirements. So there is no language in our current zoning ordinance that would require it. And again, the building official said that he would not require it. So tonight we will be considering the special exception request, and the request specifically is to remove that condition for the ADA parking. While we are at it, I would also like to just verify that the site plan referenced in the other condition is for the one that Ms. Leonard submitted. The original site plan showed a sort of a parking area in the rear of the building that would have been graded, and she also would prefer not to do that. The traffic on the site would be minimal, the parking needs are minimal, and she would prefer not to do the grading and the stoning behind the building. Again, staff did not have a strong opinion on that, so I told her we could also consider that while we are considering the ADA parking. Does that sound correct, Ms. Leonard?
Well, no, but I'll have my time to talk.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Well,
I want to tweak a few things you said.
okay, well, that's my recollection of our conversation and why we're here tonight. But if you have, you'll see her narrative and her site plan and, of course, the conditions from the last meeting. But if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them. Thank you very much.
Ms. Holton, was parking in the rear specifically for her employees?
At the last meeting, what I recall was it was identified as for employee parking.
And how many employees does she have working?
I'll let her answer that.
Would you come to the podium, please?
Happy to.
How many employees do you have?
I have 2 full and 1 part-time, but in the spring, after it's his deployment from RU, I'll have 3 full-time. I count myself.
And one of the reasons you chose not to pave parking or grade backdoor parking is cost, perhaps?
No, I
No?
never, somehow, when the site plan came in, I didn't even see or realize that someone had put grading back there. Every time I was asked, where are the employees going to park, I said, in the backyard. No matter who was talking, when they said, okay, but what are you doing about employee parking? In the backyard. So there was never any indication on my part that that was going to happen. I was going to grade and gravel and all of that stuff.
Help me out here, did we say in the special exception that we required her to grade, or did we not?
Well, I thought we did, but if I understand you right, now the plan is to do nothing back there?
That was always my intention, not in the
And
stipulation.
And it's still the intention? So what's the surface currently? Because I don't have a picture of it.
Backyard, it's grass.
It's grass. So your vehicle and 2 other employees are going to be parking in the grass?
So if I remember correctly, now help me, Elaine, David helped me too with this. Didn't you recommend that for the ADA parking it should be paved? Didn't we talk about that, about it being paved just because of the accessibility and
I mean,
with the wheelchair, or?
yeah, I'm not sure how that, because the handicap accessibility, I think you have to have a solid surface anyway, so I don't know how we came up with the gravel. I know that Miss Len at the beginning always talked about the gravel, but I didn't know how it was going to work in the front there with the gravel and having it handicap accessible.
Well, now we're going back to the ADA, and this was the reason, because there are 5 stipulations on there, and I've met all of them except 1. And I actually halfway met that one, because we started to do, it became apparent, and it wasn't cost or anything, that we could not put the ADA, when you go up on that front porch, there's about this much space between my porch and the front door. So that was going to require every single person to try to walk up that little ramp. Plus, before I researched all this, if you don't know, a handicap spot is 96 inches for the lines, 96 inches for the vehicle to park. That would have taken up half of my front parking area. So that reason, and the reason that, I just don't feel like I've got to have everybody go up a ramp to get to my front door. And I think that's more dangerous than, anything. Anyway, so we attempted to start it, putting one in the back. This is when the building inspector comes and we're discussing it, and he says, well, you really don't have to have one. I have a ramp in the back, and I have enough room for a vehicle to park. And so I have a way for people to get in, but it's not a, exactly, I mean, it's not, I don't have it painted, you know, I'm not sure if it really meets the code because it wasn't time to even get that looked at yet. When he said I didn't have to have one, I'm like, okay, that's great. So I don't.
I mean, he is correct in saying that because it is existing building, but they are, even in the code, there's so much ambiguity with a lot of stuff there because I can go back to the code that he's referencing, and there's a section under there that says work undertaken in connection with the change of occupancy, any repairs or alterations or addition undertaken in connection with the change of occupancy shall conform to the practical requirements of the work as classified in this code and as modified by this chapter. So there have been repairs done, but like I said, he has taken the part that says that because it's existing structure, that the change of occupancies are not required to be provided with additional accessibility features. So that's what he's gone by. But, I just don't want there to be any sort of legal problems down the line for you or for the town with regards to the handicap accessibility. And I don't think there will, according to what the building inspector said there. Because even in your existing building, I think the handicap accessible inside, I don't think the doors are right there or anything. So,
He came in and checked all of it.
and so I still don't think, but I think he's correct in what he's saying there, but I just don't want there to be any problems down the line for the town or for you with regards to handicap accessibility. That's all. And I know there's nothing, I think you've met everything there, but I don't know why we ever approved that in the beginning with the gravel for that to work for parking and the ramp, because
It's in the back. It's not in the front.
no, it was
It was in the
originally
front.
Originally, it was meant to be in the front.
Correct.
I have that on the,
I
so
said that, and I had intentions to, but if I put it in the front, then I'm going to have nowhere for anyone else to park.
right. It won't work with that gravel anyway, ma'am.
I'm sorry?
It will not work with the gravel anyway.
True. Well, no, true.
It would have to all be concrete or paved or something like that to make it work.
True.
But I don't think you need to meet that anyway because of what the building inspector has brought out here.
True.
So I think I think he's correct in what he's saying there. So that's why, I don't have a problem with it. But like I said, as long as there's no legal implications down the line, that's the only thing, because I don't know with the handicap accessibility. You say we don't have that, Elaine, in our parking?
We do not, and I did speak with the town attorney today about the matter because that concern was raised about, is the town under any legal obligation? And essentially what the town attorney said was that, what I said at the beginning, that because she's a small business owner, it's her requirement to meet federal and state requirements, including the ADA, and it would be her requirement to check with her own attorney about whether or not she needs to do that outside of zoning. But this zoning board and the town council would be under no legal risk by removing the condition because we follow the guidance of our building official
Right.
in making those determinations.
Yeah. You're going right past the thing where I said, I have one. I have ADA. I've already, I was 99% had it completed just in the rear of the building before the inspector said you don't need it. I'm not worried about my legalities or anyone being able to get in or out of the building.
Did the inspector check the slope of the ramp that you have
There
in the back?
again, I don't have to have it, so therefore,
Well, that's what I'm saying. You're saying you meet it, but if the slope is not correct, then you don't really meet it.
slope is, I think what we need to decide is, do I have to have one or do I not have to have one? Then if you're saying I don't have to have one, then it's up to me to make sure that it's safe for
Yeah.
my people to do it.
According to the building inspector, and I've read the stuff here, I think he's correct in what he said there. Because
And
it's
he looked
existing
at everything
building.
I had, and he said,
But I still don't-
I'm not going to approve it if I don't say I have to have one.
Sure, absolutely.
Approve something
But I'm saying just for a legal standpoint for you,
Right,
if that slope is not correct, you do not meet it.
correct.
Okay.
I take your warning, but it's correct.
Okay.
Slope is
It-
fine, the area is fine, I just don't have it painted, and I know.
So the slope is a 1 to 12 slope
It
then?
is.
It is, on your ramp?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
So do you have a spot or not? I'm very confused at this point.
I have
You're,
a spot.
you're saying there's a spot there, so why are we even here talking about it?
Don't know, sir.
If there's a spot there, which I don't have a picture of, I can't say whether it's there or not. You're asking to take it out, but you have one.
No, I'm just asking not to be held to that stipulation on my special use permit.
Well, I don't, Elaine, what was actually approved? Was it in the front of the building? Do we have a
It was in the
sketch?
front,
We have the
yes.
sketch right here.
So if you reference in your staff report,
Okay.
Staff report previously.
the requirement is for it to be in the front of the building. And what Ms. Leonard has, there's an existing concrete area beside the home. That, when I arrived at the site, she said that she wanted to use that. And that's when I reminded her that the zoning condition was for it to be in the front of the home. So that's why we're here tonight, because I don't feel comfortable with her operating in violation of her conditions. And so I suggested to her, I said, well, if you want that removed, the proper channel to modify a special exception use permit is to go back through the system again. And so that's why we're here tonight, because she does not want to do the ramp in the front.
But this is what we approved.
That is the site plan that is referenced in the conditions. So, and you'll see the parking area in the back. And I think sort of what maybe the disconnect was is that when we heard the application, she had been working with Mr. Woods. And I thought that perhaps her and Mr. Woods had worked on that site plan together. And according to Mr. Woods, they had worked on the site plan together. But according to Ms. Leonard, she was not aware of it. So either way, I don't have a strong opinion on the matter. I just want for Ms. Leonard to be legal and for us to move past this at some point.
But none of the areas indicated as number 2 was ever constructed. Is that correct?
The area in the front was graded and stoned, but none of the area in the back was graded or stoned, and the handicap ramp in the front was not constructed. And like I said, I went out there to meet with her about her signs, and that's when I noticed these things, and I mentioned it to her as a concern of mine. So,
Well, I don't have an issue with if we're going to go off what the building official said, that's fine. Through his research, it appears to be correct, but I just don't see parking in grass. I don't think that's ever been approved anywhere in town when you review new site plans for a hotel or restaurant and somebody says we're going to park in the grass, I don't think that's a good idea for anybody.
Restaurant wouldn't be in an R2.
so in essence, I did review the parking standards in our zoning ordinance because that's what I'm enabled to enforce. And as you probably remember in Article 16, we have our off-street parking standards. It says at the beginning of this article, there shall be provided at the time of erection of any building or at the time of any main building is enlarged, minimum off-street parking spaces with adequate provision for entrance and exit. And then it goes through the section. And so the way I would interpret that is because this is not a new building and it has not been enlarged, I am not sure that we would require her to meet K, which is the section on every parcel of land hereafter used as a public parking area shall be surfaced with crushed rock, gravel, asphalt, or concrete. So in response to your question, yes, if it's a new building or an enlargement of a building, which would typically trigger a site plan, we would require it to be. This is a little bit in the gray area, and as you all know, I'm dying to modify this current zoning ordinance, so maybe one day we can get these parking standards the way they need to be, but as they're currently written, I don't think that, we would require that based on that language.
Even changing the occupancy from a residential to a business, I know it has been zoned that way, but we've still given the specialization permit to allow that business to happen. Is there nothing with regards to parking, with regards to changing the occupancy to business?
So the building inspector said no, that it did not have to change from what our.
From building codes, no. But as you all know, you are enabled through the Code of Virginia to make a recommendation to the town council about any conditions that you think is needed for health, safety, and welfare. So I guess that's where I would, if I were sitting in your seats, I would look at this from, is this important from a health, safety, welfare perspective? And if you were willing to modify the condition or not, make your recommendation to the town council based on that. Staff does not have a strong opinion. It's not something that I feel, if I felt like it was a major endangerment to our community, impact to the neighbors, something like that, I would let you know. But
So, I mean, just change back to the business. Do they not have to have a certain amount of parking spots for employees and obviously people who come and use the business? Do they not? Is there nothing in the?
So I just read the Article 16 off-street parking standards, and the building, it's not a new building, and it's not been enlarged. So that entire section is related to those variables.
So you don't have a certain amount of parking. You don't need to have anything. Is that
You
what you're
would
saying?
if it was a new building, or the building would
Well,
be
that's
enlarged.
what I'm saying. It's
yes.
existing, but with existing building, you don't have to have anything. Is that what you're saying?
That's how I would interpret that language in that ordinance, correct?
So she doesn't have to provide any certain amount of parking spots at all.
That's how I would interpret it.
That
And-
just doesn't make sense to me. When you're a business, you'd think you'd have to have some parking spots allocated, whether it be for employees or customers.
Well, I agree, and that's why in the proposed UDO, you see a much different parking section.
Right.
But unfortunately,
I mean, I don't know, how does Miss Leonard feel about that?
Everybody that lives beside of me parks in their yard.
No, I'm just saying,
I know that's not a business, but I'm
Yeah.
saying that should not be any different.
well,
I mean, those houses beside of where my business is, everybody parks in the backyard.
but it is different because it's now a business. I mean, I'm just thinking in terms of the safety of
Of who?
your customers that
My
come in.
customers are parking in the front.
And the customers that go out and the traffic that comes down there, that's what I'm saying. If there's no allocation for, and you don't have to have it apparently because we don't have
Are we
everything in
talking
there.
about customer parking?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I have customer parking. I've got that whole front section with the Riverstone. And I've got
Right.
customer parking.
Do you know how many
I
spots
have enough for 3 people,
for 3 people?
yes.
And it's going to be safe enough coming out of that, going in and out, because a busy.
Riverstone,
No, because it's a busy street as well. I'm just saying that I know you don't have to have it, but I don't know, being a business, you're supposed to have a certain amount of lots available for parking, but
I do.
okay.
I don't know about parking in the grass. I mean, I have no problem with the ADA removing it based on what Tim said, but I can just see what parking in the grass over winter would look like. That's just my opinion. I don't think I'd want to live beside it. I don't think it's, you refer to health, safety, and welfare. I don't think that's really what the neighbors would want. I wouldn't want my neighbors to park in the grass. I mean, I'm fine with your ADA request, but you're saying you don't want to do any parking in the rear in regard to stone or asphalt, concrete, whatever. You don't want to do anything back there. You just want to park there, right?
Correct.
In the grass, which ultimately in the winter, we all know what that does.
Is
So
there any concrete back there at all, ma'am?
Concrete that I put in for the ADA
Just back there?
is there.
Okay, just for the ADA. Okay.
you don't have any pictures of what it currently looks like, do you?
I do not.
I'm sorry you had to go
You're
through all
welcome
that.
to come. You're welcome to come.
Well, we want to try to come to a consensus tonight, I would assume, but
Right.
we're just trying to tie everything together with your request and
Well,
make it work.
I think what I want to make sure doesn't happen is that something other than coming in to ask the ADA to be taken off happens. Because I don't want anything else opened up that wasn't addressed before.
Yeah, but your original plan required you to do what's in the back.
That's a plan that, I did not do that plan.
That's what we voted on. That's the problem,
Yeah.
is if you don't have your own plan, this is a plan all of us were provided with, so, I mean, that's all we could go off of.
That's where the communication between possibly what's happened. And then when it says, here's your site plan. I didn't know any changes had been made to it. Yes, probably should have looked at it. I don't know anymore what a site plan is
So-
or anything. It's just-
So just to be clear, it's not just the handicap accessible, it's also the parking in the back that's been removed to what we agreed on. Is that correct, Elaine?
So you will see in your staff report on page 13, if you want to look at that, I indicated the language in red that I would like to see for condition number 3. If you want to go along with what Ms. Leonard is proposing, we would go with the site plan presented by the applicant. And you will see in your package, the site plan submitted by the applicant is in her own writing, a kind of a Google map that says employee parking in the rear, no grading required. And I'm looking to see if, keep going down, Ron. Yeah, right there. I don't know if y'all can see on the screen. But that's what Ms. Leonard submitted. And so again, to prevent any more miscommunication, I just submitted what she presented. With the employee parking in the rear, no grading required. She's got the area shown in the front, and then she's got her existing entrance and exit. The area in the front has already been stoned. That is the employee parking area that she's referencing. The area in the back has got a slight slope to it, and it is grassed. And the day that I visited the site, there was a few, maybe 2 employee cars back there. So I'm leaving it up to the commission because I don't want to, color this in any opinions I may have about the matter. But at this point, staff does not see any major issues with it. I think if it becomes muddy in the back, she will probably have it stoned, I would think, for her employees. But if you feel passionate about requiring the gravel in the rear yard for the employee parking, then you can modify that condition. And then whatever you want to do about the ADA is entirely up to you.
Now, I have a question.
Well, I don't have a problem, period.
Thank you. But my question is, because I'm here seeking one thing to be removed, I don't think it's fair to open up the 4 things that I have done. There were 5 things put on there. I've met 4. Just asking for one to be taken off because, as Ms. Holden said, she thinks legally it needs to be taken off. It can't stay on there if I'm not going to commit to it 100%. I have a 95% ADA, so I mean, that's here and now or nothing, but we need to take it off because it doesn't have to be there.
And I agree with that.
And therefore, I don't want to go back and revisit the other 4 things that I've already spent money, time, and everything
Well, I think,
to do to the best of my conception of
Sure.
what it was.
and I have no problem with the handicap accessibility be taken out. I don't have a problem with that at all. What I do have a problem with, though, is because that was one of those 4 things, was it not parking at the rear that was supposed to be taken care of?
No,
Was that not part of the,
no.
It was.
oh, it
Right
was?
here it says employee parking in the yard, or whatever, what does it say there? No
It's-
grading needed. Employee parking, no grading.
I think he's talking about the original.
Yeah, the original site plan that Mr. Woods prepared that was in the staff report is what condition number 3 referenced. Because that is what was presented, and I believe it was pretty transparent that that was the site plan that was referenced, not only for this meeting, but also for the town council's consideration. So, again, I don't like the uncertainty of that. I think it needs to be decided by this body and the town council whether they're going to allow that space in the back to remain grassed, or, because when I went out there, I was shocked that it was not graded and gravelled. And that's when I mentioned to Ms. Leonard, I said, I'm very concerned because you're not meeting the condition. And so that's why we're here tonight.
Like I said, I have no problem with the handicap accessibility, taking that out, because what the building inspectors brought forth there, no problem at all. The problem that I have is just with the parking at the back. I mean, I'd be a lot more comfortable if it was gravelled.
Comfortable, but I want legality here. I don't want opinions. I don't want what you might want. I don't want what Lisa might want. I don't want what he thinks he might want. This is how we got into this trouble anyway. There should be, if these people come forward for these special use permits, it shouldn't be wishy-washy. It shouldn't be, And maybe y'all have decided that these things should be more stipulations put on them, because everyone that I've talked to up and down the road that got these, it was just like this. It was here, there, and everywhere. So that thing, that gets a person to thinking, why is this happening to me? Why are these hoops having to be gone through? There's got to be a law that says if you have a special use permit, it's got to be this, 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 and this. Not, well, I think it should be this because you're here and this area looks like this and you should do this. Or it should be this because, oh, well, I'm not comfortable with that, it should be this. Got to be more structure and more laws. I mean, I don't want people to say, I don't want you to say, I think you should do this, when there's no ground to stand on that I have to do that.
But
I
ma'am,
want to know what I have to do.
I understand that part, but ma'am, we voted on that saying to those specifications that was brought forward to us, and that's why we're now saying that's what the special accession permit was based on, was on that design that was given to us in the beginning. So,
And I'm saying that between my design and that design that you got, there was no communication. And when they said, here's your site plan, I didn't think, oh, let's look and see who's changed it and what they've changed it to.
but this is what we vote. That's all we're saying. That's what we voted on before, ma'am.
Well, I'm saying, what do we do about it now? Because that's not what I requested.
I mean, was that plan given to John Woods in the very beginning?
Give it to somebody.
Okay. I mean,
So how do you feel about putting gravel in the back?
I feel like I'm being coerced to do it. I mean, will I do it eventually? Maybe. But not before I open my doors. None of us mind. 3 people that have to park back there, we don't mind. You make it sound like, you know, we're going to have a Woodstock back there or something. I don't know what you think. I mean, we just pull in there and we pull up to the, I pull up to the thing right there. I park right there at the door practically. One person pulls up to the shade, doesn't want any sun in her car, pulls up to the shade. It's not bothering any of us at all. And there again, not bothering anyone around us is because I know I'm a business, but everybody that lives in that house beside me parks in the backyard. But they're not concerned that I'm parking in the backyard because that's what they do.
Elaine, I don't feel like as the planning commission, we're ready to proceed with this.
Okay.
So maybe we need to have further discussion. And how do we need to proceed with that?
Sure. So if it's up to you, you can table it and we can talk about it again in January if you'd like. That would give each of you time to go visit the site if Ms. Leonard's okay with that. You know, again, I can bring more information to the next meeting. I guess I just assumed it was still in everybody's mind because it wasn't that long ago, but I don't mind presenting the entire packet from the May meeting. If you want to, we can even have Ron pull up the May meeting online. The packet's available online. If that would help you to look at the packet from the May meeting, we can do that tonight. But staff is here to help you with this, however you see fit. Again, I don't have a strong opinion either way. If I did, you would have seen a staff recommendation on this one, but
How do you all feel, Brad? David, do you agree, or what do you think?
well, I mean, I'd hate to wait to January to get this done for Miss Len because I mean, she's has to try and run a business here. I'm sure she wants to. I don't know if the business is operating now, and
It is.
it is. So there's going to be no problem there then with regards to that.
can we ask Ron? Ron, would you mind going to? Is that an ability for you? There would be the May meeting, the packet, because it's got images in that one. It also has the site plan that Mr. Woods supposedly assisted her with.
I believe her her reason for showing tonight is to amend the special exception to remove the ADA.
Yes, ma'am.
Period.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
And
ma'am.
I get it, and I don't have a problem
So
removing
we can do
it.
that.
Huh?
We can do that then.
I think we need to do that tonight.
Yes.
I
we
do.
can do that for sure.
I don't want to delay that part.
No.
But I think the town council needs clarity as to what are we sending to them this go round,
We make the recommendation, and it goes to council.
right?
So
But,
that's what I like to do, is make the recommendation about the removing the ADA
right?
and send it to council.
But, so the problem lies into the original approved site plan is still in effect.
Right, which is
Right.
on your screen.
Yes,
And so I agree with you, yes.
Yeah.
That's what we need to, yeah,
that's what we need to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, and so
All right.
that, what
With-
that would mean then is if the town council follows your recommendation, then Ms. Leonard, you would have to meet that site plan, which shows, I don't know if you can see on the screen.
So they can go, they can, let me see. That they do not have to go by what you recommend?
They do not,
Okay.
they do
And
not.
they could also agree with me. I don't know.
Well, I think this body agrees with you on the ADA. I think
100%.
that's what I'm hearing anyways. They haven't voted yet. So the question is regarding this site plan in the back that was presented with your application is whether they feel comfortable with you having an ungraded and ungraveled rear parking area. Because, and you know, guys, just looking back at the video, because after I met with Ms. Leonard, I went back and I watched the video from your meeting in May. And it was very clear that we were going back and forth about the parking in the back. And so I would just encourage, you know, if you want to wait, you can, but it was pretty clear that there was a conversation for about an hour about what was going to happen on the site. And that's why I was so surprised when I got to the site and I didn't see it graded. That's just my 2 cents. Everybody has their own perspective, but in my opinion, what was approved was that she has to meet that site plan that is attached to that condition, unless we remove it as part of this process.
Well, there'll be another to change the special zoning permit again for another one that was on there then. So not just taking off the handicap, but taking off the park at the back.
Well,
Is that correct?
that would be staff's recommendation because it leaves staff in a very difficult position, right?
Right.
Just as soon as somebody challenges Ms. Leonard's site, what law would I have to follow? And I would follow the site plan that was approved.
Okay, and I want to, someone right now to read me those 5 stipulations, not the site plan. Some people can't even read the site plan. I don't know anything about that site plan. So what were my 5 stipulations, please?
Okay, so the 5 stipulations were, give me just a second. The hours of operation no earlier or later than 8 to 6 daily. No left turn from the property onto North 4th Street, right turn only, appropriate signage to direct traffic for ingress and egress into the site.
That's done.
The parking layout requires the parking configuration and minimum amount of parking spaces as shown on the application site plan, which is that one. Parking surface shall be a minimum of stone surface or it may be paved at the discretion of the applicant. The ADA accessible space with paved access to the front of the building and the business sign, which I believe is up, and I don't know that I need to go over that one. But yeah, those were so that number 3 referencing that site plan is what, in my opinion,
Now read
needs to
number
be.
3 one more time.
Okay, number 3 says the parking layout requires the parking configuration and minimum amount of parking spaces as shown on the application site plan.
Okay, now, why is the site plan that I put in with my application not being considered?
For this special exception permit or for the last one?
The last one.
The last one, I don't know because I didn't work with you on that. I had assumed that you and John Woods had worked hand in hand on that application right there.
So that's the leg I'm going to stand on with council.
Okay.
For my intention that this plan be deviated any from my plan. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. So we still would need to have the public hearing tonight at some point. regardless of what decision you want to make, because we did publicize it.
Thank you.
Oh, so you don't need me anymore.
If you want to sit in the audience, they may ask you to come back up.
Oh, I'm
Okay, next is the public hearing to consider amending the special exception permit approved by the Withfield Town Council on June the 9th, 2025, for Ms. Donna Leonard to operate an accounting and tax office on property located at 525 North 4th Street, tax parcel 41A-1-22-7 in an R2 residential zoning district. So I'm going to open the public hearing now. And if anyone would like to speak, please approach the podium. Okay. It doesn't look like
She had
anyone
opened
wants
the
to
public
speak.
hearing. She had opened the public
So
hearing.
I will close the
But I
public
thought we
hearing.
just finished discussing it.
No, that was item 1.
Right, next. Okay, I'm going to read this again. I'm going to need a motion to make a recommendation to the Withfield Town Council to either approve or deny amending the special exception permit approved by the Withfield Town Council on June 9th, 2025, for Ms. Donna Leonard to operate an accounting and tax office on property located at 525 North 4th Street, tax parcel 41A-1-22-7 in an R2 residential zoning district. And that will require a motion and a roll call vote.
But all we're changing is that there is no requirement for ADA.
Correct. I think that's correct, isn't it?
And I'll make a motion to recommend the change to remove the ADA requirements of the site while still adhering to the original site plan that was approved by Town Council in June of 2025.
I'll second that.
Right. So all those in favor, and it'll require roll call. George
Quicker, aye.
Anderson, aye.
Anderson, aye.
Schmidt, aye.
Jones, aye.
Litton, aye.
So again, Elaine, that is there any further discussion on that? I just want to clarify that it is what I just read with the conditions that were attached that Brad spoke about. So that needs to be documented.
We're clear what site plan we're using, correct?
Correct. The
Okay.
original one
It's the
submitted
original one.
as part of the May packet,
Okay.
which would require Ms. Leonard to grade and stone the rear yard in addition to the front yard.
But I'm wondering, her application didn't have that in the back. How the heck did it get into that if she didn't put it in her application?
From what I understood, she worked with Mr. Woods on all of it.
Okay, but I'm just saying,
Right.
that's gonna be the question.
Yeah.
And
And I'm sorry that Miss Leonard's wasn't put in there. I don't know why it wasn't, but unfortunately, we voted on what we saw here.
I know what we voted on, but we were
I know.
voting on something that we shouldn't have been voting on.
Well, we can only vote on what's been given to
Yeah.
us,
I
unfortunately.
know.
So I'm
I
sorry
agree.
about that, Miss Leonard, because we never saw your original site plan. If there was one, we
Well,
never
that means
saw
a
it.
lot to me. Because I'll see that eventually we'll get back to that. Somewhere along the line, I will see that my original thing gets in someone's place.
Are you saying your original plan was the one that we looked at tonight in our packet, or
The one that was handwritten,
you gave that to John?
Yes.
Dr. Woods?
yes.
And we never saw it, so. And that should have been, I mean, we had a lengthy conversation about the back, as you mentioned, so.
And every time I said park in the backyard, I'm going to park in the backyard. Even told the gentleman here who was against paving, don't worry, I'm not going to pave anywhere. I'm only putting gravel in the front, I'm paving in there for the park.
And I think, Donna, we're not trying to question you. We've just got two different plans that we're trying.
I agree,
I
I
mean,
see
that,
that.
and you understand, it's not that we're not together as a planning commission, it's just that we're confused too, so that's part of it.
And we don't want you coming here for a third time.
No.
Having to pay for it. Like, I mean, it's
Oh,
just,
I didn't pay, no.
okay, well, well, even your
That
time,
was
like,
a stipulation.
okay. We just,
I didn't think it was fair because something was on there that I didn't need, and when we thought this was just formality to come in and have that one thing removed, but there again, I'm disillusioned as about how the cogs of government work, so.
Well, I will say this as staff, Mr. Woods and his interpretation of the ordinance was very similar to yours, that all business locations should be either stoned or paved, and I'm assuming that his intentions were pure and trying to assist Ms. Leonard with her site plan. And I do understand you met on several occasions. Did you meet on site?
No,
No, you met in his office.
once. And then it
Okay.
was- I
So
think
you
it was
didn't work with him on that site plan at all?
The one that you got?
The one that was in the packet?
No.
Okay. Well,
He just said, I think he said something about, I've drawn it out, it looks more professional than your handwritten one, or
Okay.
something.
but you didn't discuss the parking in the rear?
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry about that, Miss Leonard.
That's okay. Well, I am too, and
Yeah.
I'm just trying to. I was told I needed to be here because we've got to take it off now. Written, it's in stone, like Moses and the tablets, and we got to get it taken off. We're not ready to do that just now. ADA.
Yeah, the ADA recommendation has been removed, but it'll be up to the town council, and we'll present it as best we can.
Will be next month.
It'll be in January.
Oh.
Yeah.
okay. Awesome. We'll be doing this till. So do you need me anymore tonight?
I don't think
No, I
so.
don't think
How's
so.
it?
Is there-
Thank you for coming.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Any further discussion regarding the topic? Right, moving on, citizens period. And there are no citizens that wish to speak on our list. So moving on, planning department updates. Ms. Holton.
Okay, great. So in essence, the town council did meet and discussed us continuing our work on the UDO, and we have been authorized to do that. So come January, I hope that we can get back to work on the UDO. Tonight, we will discuss some amendments to the zoning ordinance, and that might carry into January as well, just based on some legal concerns, but we will try to get back to the UDO just as soon as we can.
All right, moving on, other business, review and discuss the draft floodplain ordinance. Elaine.
Okay, so at the last meeting, we talked about the National Flood Insurance Program. We talked about the current zoning ordinance, Article 16, the flood zone overlay that we have in the current zoning ordinance. We discussed the option of removing that section from Article 16 and working with the town council to enact a standalone floodplain ordinance. And we looked at some draft language at the last meeting. So I just wanted to circle back on that topic. You will see in your packet, starting on page 22, the Article 16, page 23, the Article 16 language. And if you scroll down through there with me, you will see some strike-through areas. These are some areas that I've been meeting with the attorney about, just some general cleanup in this section. We have, of course, the parking standards, which are in there, and we referenced that earlier today. At this point in time, I'm not suggesting modifying those because I think if we started to tackle parking, we would be at it for a while. So we're going to skip right by that. But you'll see on page 30, the beginning of the floodplain section. And essentially, when we package this up for town council, this will be the section that will be repealed. And you'll scroll all the way down in your packet to page, and I'll get to the end and tell you. It's a pretty lengthy section of Article 16.
So you're taking the whole floodplain out then?
Correct.
Do you have the new language for the new, what you are putting in? Or,
Let me see if that was in your packet or not. At the bottom.
I didn't see anything, but I,
Okay. We talked about the draft language at the last meeting, and it's essentially the same. I did send it back to DCR, and they said that I just needed to revise 2 dates on it. So that draft floodplain language is the same. One of the things to recognize with the Planning Commission is because the standalone floodplain ordinance will just be an ordinance, it won't be part of the zoning ordinance. You really won't have a role in that. That will be for the town council because they are the ones that would adopt any ordinance, including a standalone floodplain ordinance. But I'm happy to bring the draft language to you in January if I didn't include it in this packet. It's very similar to what's currently in Article 16. It's just been updated. What is currently in Article 16 is from 2007. And, oh, yep, it's at the end. It starts on page, it's a big packet, I apologize. It starts on page 76
okay.
in your packet.
Obviously I didn't make it there. Wow.
There we go. And Ron has it up on the screen. So this is the model language that is proposed by DCR, and essentially we'll be adopting the model ordinance.
And the only thing that you had changed was a couple of dates, is that correct, in that?
So since the last planning commission meeting,
Yeah.
I sent it to DCR, and she sent an email back saying that I had to change 2 dates. One was when we joined the National Flood Insurance Program. I had that incorrect, so I corrected that.
Okay.
So we're essentially ready to go on the floodplain item. I don't know if you want me to put it back on the agenda for January or not. Staff will do whatever you want me to do as it relates to that section.
I mean, we don't have anything to do with this. You said it's more to do with town council, right? When it comes to floodplain.
You will be involved in the recommendation to repeal it out of Article 16.
I see.
And then the adoption of the new would be up to the council.
Is that what we are supposed to be voting on tonight?
We're not voting tonight.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
We're just
Okay.
reviewing, getting everything ready for January,
I see.
potentially February, when we would
Okay.
have to do an official public hearing. So my goal is to get everybody comfortable with what we're doing, and then we will schedule the public hearing. Does anybody have any questions about the floodplain topic?
Didn't last time you talk about the maps that they're still working on with the floodplain?
I posed the question and I have not received a response.
I see. Because would that not affect this floodplain ordinance?
The only thing it would affect would be those dates, because we would have an effective new, what they call a firm date, which is the rate maps.
Okay.
But the districts and everything, the regulations themselves would be the same.
Okay.
Any more questions for Elaine before we move on?
No, ma'am.
Right. Next, discussion regarding the proposed long-term camping language. Ms. Holden?
Okay. So again, this is in Article 16, and we've been talking about this for quite some time now. The council directed the planning commission to consider long-term camping. We decided to put that in the section called uses not provided. We spent quite a bit of time talking about what standards we wanted to create for camping in a recreational vehicle. At the last meeting, we added a section on tent camping to distinguish between the two. And I believe right now we're at what we decided was 2 weeks in a recreational vehicle and 4 days in a tent is when we would trigger a potential violation for camping. And then at the last meeting, we just said, we'll give everybody some time to think about that a little bit more. I would like to put that to rest at this meeting, so we don't have to put that on another agenda. If you're comfortable with those timeframes or the language, if you're not, we can have further discussion again tonight.
I believe Marion has adopted an ordinance to totally ban camping.
Excuse me?
I believe Marion adopted an ordinance to totally ban camping. Seems we have a lot of people going up.
For public spaces or for private property?
And I'm not sure.
So we are seeing that in different jurisdictions across Virginia. They are banning it on public property, which would be your parks and your right-of-ways and your streets. Our town council did take action a few months ago in our own town code, restricting sleeping in public spaces. So I feel like the public space aspect is currently covered. What zoning is going to regulate is camping on private property.
Are we gonna, I know there was a lot of discussion of written permission from the owner. Are we abandoning that idea?
It's still in here.
Maybe I'm looking at the wrong spot. Okay, I see it
Property
now.
owner.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I was actually looking at the camping unit.
The part that I think may need to be separated, I'm not sure, where use is not permitted, and down there it says long-term camping by use of camping unit or by tent, but when you go back up to the long-term uses there, you have the temporary recreational camping in that long-term use as well. Should that not be separated from that?
What page are you on, David?
I'm on page, what page is this?
Should be one.
47.
47. Okay,
Yes,
thanks. Boy, this is a big packet. I'm blaming Brandy. She's not here, but I'm sure I gave it to her.
It's a huge package.
Okay, so everybody, let's all go to 47 together, and we can look at it together. Okay, so it starts out Article 16-15, uses not permitted in any zoning district. The areas that are struck through are the areas that I am recommending we get rid of. It's just a lot of useless language. The yellow is what I'm suggesting that we add. And then if you go down to page 46, you'll see that I added also some of the uses that we were talking about as part of the UDO. I don't know if this is going to go, if you all agree with this, if this is going to go on to town council and they're going to also agree, but as you recall, we discussed this quite a bit as part of the UDO, you know, not allowing things like slaughterhouses and gas and oil extraction and industrial incinerators and nuclear power plants, and the likelihood of something like that wanting to locate in the town of Wytheville is probably pretty rare, but because our town is only 14 square miles, unlike a county, we just don't have enough room to accommodate those uses and provide adequate separation distance to our residential homes. So in my opinion, I'm like, why not, right? We're modifying this section, let's put those things in there, but, you know, we'll do whatever the planning commission wants to do, and anything in yellow is not currently in the ordinance. We don't need to recommend it. The part on long-term camping is on page 47. And your question, David, was, one more time.
Okay, well, when you go to 48, I'm sorry, it says
Okay.
that use is not permitted, and it went to the bottom there, long-term camping by use of camping units or by tent. But
Okay.
when you go back into long-term camping uses there, you'll see the temporary recreational camping is permitted, but it's right underneath it. But would that mean that the long-term is including that there?
Yes, so what the purpose of 16-15.3 is, this is what makes it unlawful. So if we were ever in front of a judge and the judge would ask, what is the specific law that was broken? That is why it is referenced again. Does that make sense? The intent is the same, is for those things to be unlawful, but it just says the uses shown in this article are not permitted in the town of Wytheville. So that would be like your speeding ticket. Does that make sense? Up above is where we're defining it. Up above where you reference it on page 40.
Oh, okay, yeah, I see what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that good the way it is like that then?
It's like that intentionally, correct?
Okay, okay.
I guess the key word's long-term. What is long-term, right?
Yeah, so all of the uses in 16-15.3 are defined at the beginning of this section. So that's where long-term camping by use of a tent, long-term camping by use of a, you almost have to put on your attorney hat sometimes when you're drafting these ordinances, because you got to think about how you define things in case you're in front of a judge.
Okay, so with that said, someone could technically camp 3 days on a property without written permission, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to see written permission on everything, but I don't know how everyone else feels.
I feel the same way.
I mean, I don't think the intent is to go bother the kids in the backyard. But if somebody, challenges someone, which I'm sure has happened, why is this guy camping on my neighbor's property? Well, he can do it. Technically, no trespassing signs for 3 days. And then he can move to another property. So I don't know if that's what we have been talking about or not, but I think that somewhat needs to remain.
Okay.
In the town, and correct me if I'm wrong, they have banned camping altogether on public property,
Correct.
and that has been approved, so there's absolutely no camping.
I think I don't have it in front of me, but I think the actual words was like types of sleeping. And so they were covering anything that looked like somebody was sleeping on the ground or on a bench or anything like that. When we started this conversation, we recognized that there may be people who, were lawfully wanting to come stay with a friend or a family member and, for a week or so camp in the RV, or maybe the kids camping in the backyard. And I think that's where we've really been talking about the length of time. As part of that, we did talk about the written permission, which I think is great. But, if you would like, I could try to modify the language to indicate that all camping requires written permission.
It's just, I don't know what
If
everyone
that's
else
what you
thinks.
want.
Speak up, but I think if that's the problem we're trying to address, then we're not exactly.
But isn't already in there, Brad, the written permission has to be provided by the property owner under the temporary recreational camping?
Well, if I'm understanding it right, they don't have to have permission?
It's the length of time. So,
So under the 4 days, they
Right.
don't have to have the
No.
permit. That's what I'm saying.
The 14 days, the 14-day time is what I'm looking at there.
Well, I was looking at the 4 days for the tent.
so for both definitions,
It's the same, I guess.
what we're defining here is long-term camping. So what we could define is short-term camping,
Right.
give it another definition,
Right.
and sort of clean that up so that short-term camping also requires written permission, and just define that as under 4 days for a tent and under 14 days for an RV.
Don't let
Does
me
that make
sway
sense?
y'all either way, but I think if that's our objective is to address
I like it.
Yeah.
Was it,
Why distinguish between short-term and long-term? Why don't we just say camping period? Because if short-term and long-term require permission, then why don't we just say camping of any sort that requires permission?
that's a great idea. I don't know. Let's troubleshoot that. What sort of hiccups would we encounter?
Because are you referring to the short-term camping as the 4 days?
We can write the definition however we choose.
Okay.
Well, I think you had mentioned some concern with someone just living in a camper, though. That's part of where the problem lies?
There was some case studies that have occurred historically that I think is what triggered the town council to request us to address this.
And what were they specifically wanting us to?
Long-term,
Just in general?
long-term residing in a recreational vehicle on private property and not having tools to address it was one. And then another was an individual was tent camping at a fast food restaurant in a commercial zone district, and we were able to address it eventually by contacting the owner and having them work with the police to do a trespass charge. But the concern was if the owner is not wanting to work with the PD to do a trespass charge, then there was no other laws to restrict the tent camping.
So are we going back to just saying camping, or are we going to have the long-term and the short-term?
I think part of the challenge too was we did have a situation where a family member had an individual in their family who was living in a tent on their property, and they were okay with that. So that was if you were thinking about this from where we're headed, that person, that mother, could have given that father written permission to live in a tent on her property forever and ever, amen. So I kind of feel like that's where the time periods kind of came in.
Which I think is good anyway.
Right. How about I think I see what your intent is. How about I take a stab at some language and we'll look at this again in January. Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Discussion regarding Article 22, ordinance regulating the sitting of wireless telecommunication facilities of the current Town of Whitfield zoning ordinance.
What I'm doing currently is I'm going to find the page to direct you all to go to. So it's going to be at the end of your packet. And what we did here was we took your existing Article 22, which is the telecommunications section, and we modified the text to reflect the new requirements. At the last meeting, as you recall, we talked about telecommunication towers and what happened at or around 2017 when the federal government and the state government changed not only federal law but state law about how localities should regulate telecommunication wireless telecommunication towers. So if you look at page 121. So it's in essence, sort of the meat and potatoes of this is the Code of Virginia says that if you have a tower or a structure that is under 50 feet tall, that the locality is no longer allowed to require a special exception permit for a tower that is under 50 feet tall, that we have to go through an administrative review process. They also said that if anybody wanted to co-locate a wireless telecommunication antenna on an existing tower or structure that is either existing or under 50 feet tall, that they also go through an administrative review process, and you cannot require a special exception permit. So if you look at our current zoning ordinance, we historically have required a special exception permit for everything dealing with wireless telecommunications. So in order to meet the state code, we need to modify this article to reflect the current state law. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, I'm not finished with this chapter. So we will look at this again in January, all right? We're not making a vote on this tonight. My goal was to present the draft language that I have tonight. I will probably try to work a little bit more on this to clean it up. You will notice if you just casually scroll through this section, there's going to be a lot of strike through here.
Elaine,
Yes.
what is in the proposed new UDO? with
The UDO
wireless?
got completely rewrote.
I know, but what is that in telecommunication in the new UDO?
In the new UDO, if you remember, we have conditional uses. And the telecommunications language that we wrote, brand new, it's in that Article 8 conditional uses, so that when you look at the land use table, it would have been a condition across the land use table.
So can you use the same thing from the proposed new UDO into the existing one to modify it, or will that not work?
Well, I would love to repeal and replace Article 22 with the new UDO language. That would be
Okay.
wonderful, but I would need somebody to tell me to do that. Because as you remember, the directive from the town council was to modify the existing zoning ordinance. And so it was pretty painful to go through and try to
That's what I'm
strike
saying.
out.
It
And
seems like it's taken a lot of time to do that when we already have the proposed one, which we could go over again, and
We
maybe a lot
can.
easier to just replace with that. I don't know what the rest of the.
It should be compliant with state law, right?
That's what I
Correct.
thought.
Yeah. I would, if it's easier on you, I would use that. And then that way, we're not doing this again
Exactly.
when we get
Right.
to it in the UDO, so.
I think it would be cleaner language. I think, a lot of this that was written back in the 2000s is, when you read it, it's pretty chunky. There's a lot more words here than we need to say what we need to say. And that's why there's so much strike through.
And we could then compare it as well, like we were doing with the other zones. We could compare the new one to the existing to see what,
Okay. So what we can do is, for the January meeting, I can bring the UDO draft language, and then I can bring this back as well, and we can, but in the meantime, if you want to just read through this, you can. And what I will do, I will also email this to you, both the new proposed telecommunication language and this section, so that if you did want to read it and spend some time with it, you can.
Because when we can compare them both, I think it's better for us anyway. So we
Okay.
can see what, just like the zones,
Absolutely.
same sort of thing.
So that's all I have on that topic.
Any further discussion on any topics that we need to discuss before we adjourn? Not, this meeting's adjourned at 7:13.